certificate, which we will get in case you attend all the webinars. Stop me if you don't understand something. Ask me to slow down if you need me to slow down, things like that. Feel free to chat to each other and to ask questions, things like that. If you need to use the microphone in order to ask a more complicated question, just raise your hand. You have a little man above with a raised hand where you can set your status. Things not to do, basically, don't skip webinars because they're mostly all connected. Don't turn off your sound because that will make Tina very sad. And try not to get too bored. If you're bored, just tell me and I'll try to change something for next time. Another thing to do, give Tina feedbacks. Yay! So that we can make them better, make the webinars better. This webinar is going to be recorded. Just like the self-awareness webinar was. The link will be in the TM workspace. All the TMs and the TM responsible people, as well as the LCPs, have access to it. So if you want to review it or if you want to share it with your members, just know that it will be in the TM workspace. Okay, moving on. When it comes to planning, why is planning important and why are we actually doing planning? If we're going to start from ISIC, we're doing planning in order to actually measure what we've achieved, in order to not do things like chickens without heads, and in order to do things with purpose, and in order to have really clear goals and to see how we can achieve them. How we actually do that? First, we develop the plan. We have the main components of the plan, which we will talk about a bit later on, and then we actually implement the plan. A lot of the times, people focus a lot on developing the plan and on the main components, on the activities, and they plan everything in detail, and then they fail when it comes to implementation. That's why implementation is something that nowadays a lot of people are talking about. Implementation and tracking of the activities, and that's also something that we're going to be talking about. So to start off, what are the planning steps? When you do your planning, let's say you're doing functional planning as a team, the first thing you should do if you're doing LC planning is to develop a mission and a vision. Does anybody know the difference between a mission and a vision? You can raise your hand if you want to speak or type it or anything. Anyone? Okay, Topison and Samal are typing while we wait for them. The second part is environmental assessment. It also links back to something we already talked about, which is the SWOT analysis. Then we have establishing the goals, implementing the strategy, and evaluation of the results. None of the other steps can be done until we have a clear mission and a clear vision. Topi-san says that the vision is the way we see our work and mission is kind of aim that we want to achieve. Does everybody agree? Any other opinions? If it's easier for you guys, I can enable your microphone so you can talk. Yeah, no. Mission is also kind of present state and vision is more about future goals, something like that. Okay, let's see what Samal has to say. Okay, so basically you're all more or less right. I will explain it through examples. So we have the ISIC mission and the ISIC vision. The vision is the why. Why are we doing what we're doing? The ISIC vision, as you know, is peace and fulfillment of humankind's potential. So that's our overall goal. That's something that we want to achieve. The vision is usually something that's somewhat unreachable. So we usually set it very, very high. And then the mission is what and how. So we're answering three main questions: why we're doing something, which is the vision, in order to achieve peace and fulfillment of humankind's potential. And then we have then we have what and how we're actually getting to the why, which is by developing future responsible global leaders by providing self-driven practical learning experience if we're talking about ISIC. A lot of the times, teams do their functional planning and LC planning without setting the mission and the vision, and that can be problematic because you can't really plan your activities if you don't know why you're doing it, if you don't know the main activities that you want to achieve and your main overall goals. That's why we always start with doing the mission and the vision. First, we usually start from the vision and we ask ourselves why. If we're talking about LC planning, you sit down with your team and you ask them, okay, why are we in this position and why are we here? Why do we want to change? And then you say, for example, I want to make TM better. So why? My vision is to make TM better. What and how? Then we have in what and how, yes, TM is important, as you know. The what and how, by providing people with a better educational cycle so that they can get more knowledge and so they can be happier. That's how and what I'm actually doing. And then to make TM better is the why. That's how I started when I did my functional plan, and you'll have a chance to see a bit of my functional plan a bit later. The second step is doing an environmental assessment. Basically, you're doing a SWOT analysis. Again, if we're talking about LC planning, which I think is the closest to all of us, if we're talking about LC planning, we're basically analyzing the strengths of our LC, the weaknesses, the opportunities, and the threats. We talked in the first webinar about self-awareness. And as a part of self-awareness, we talked about SWOT analysis as a tool to analyze not only yourself, but also your opportunities and what you're doing. What's basically the difference between strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats? As you see here in the presentation, strengths and weaknesses are something internal. So it's something that comes from within, and opportunities and threats are something external. So when I was analyzing, for example, when I was doing my functional plan and when I was analyzing TM, the strengths are willingness to learn and my willingness to, my motivation to change things. My weaknesses were maybe the mindset thing, maybe the mindset of the people of the team, or maybe the language barrier. That's something from within, because not all people can actually understand me because of the English-Russian barrier and because I speak sometimes really fast. Then the external things, in the opportunities, we have a lot of new members that we will have. We have really motivated EB teams. We have people who really understand why we should change some things. And in the threats, we have the other side of the people who don't really think that anything should change. So that's what I started with, my vision that I wanted to change, how I want to change it, and then I did an assessment of how is the situation now in order to be fully aware of everything before I actually started planning. So before we start actual planning and sitting down with a pen and paper or with a laptop and Word or Excel, we have to do some preparation, and this is part of the preparation for planning. It also includes a lot of research, so be aware of that as well. Then we have establishing the goals. How do we usually establish goals? We can use the, hi Adele. So we can use the OGSM model. It's a framework that a lot of companies use, and it's pretty easy to use, and that's why a lot of people are using them where they're establishing their goals. It's an acronym for objectives, goal, strategies, and measures. As you can see here, objectives are what we actually need to achieve. So in order to make TM better, what I need to achieve is I need to make everybody present for my webinars, for example. Then we have also like that's the overall goal, to make everybody present on the webinars. In the objective, my statement is I want everybody present to the webinars. And then when it comes to goals, I'm talking more or less about the action steps that I need to take in order to get people and in order to fulfill my objective. When it comes to strategies, it's how I'm going to, for example, do promotion in order to get people there, what initiatives I'm going to take, how I'm going to make the webinars work, things like that. And when it comes to measures, it's again comes down to MOSs and KPIs, so measures of success and key performance indicators. How am I actually going to make everything work? Is that clear so far? Again, stop me if I'm talking too fast or if you don't understand or anything. Yeah. Again, everything is going to be, I will share also planning template with you, so you will have all the information you need. Let's see, let's wait for everybody. Okay, awesome. Then if we move on, the next step is making an action plan. A lot of the time when we're talking about action plans, we usually just focus on the what or on the what and when. Most of the time we don't focus on who or on how. And those parts are pretty important, because if we don't know who is responsible for making something happen, or if we don't know how specifically that person is going to make that something happen, our plan is not going to be implemented and we will have done everything for nothing. So it's easiest if we start from what. So it's basically what we need to do, by when we need to do it. And then we have specific action steps on how we're going to do everything that we need to do. And in the end, who is going to be responsible for each action step. So what do I need to do? I need to have all people present in my webinars. When is my deadline? My deadline is by the 31st of December, because that is when the webinars will end. How am I going to do that? I'm going to try to do more promotion. I'm going to have cooperation with Nigina so that she can do part of it in Russian. I'm going to have another NST coordinator who is going to be in charge of also implementing and promotion. I'm going to try to talk with the EBs, and I'm going to try to ask you guys to share your experience with webinars and get other people to join. Basically, who is going to be responsible for it? I'm going to be responsible for it along with my NSTs. So for each how, you have a different responsible person. And this is especially important when it comes to functional plans and when it comes to LC plans. When you have functional plans, you will have them very detailed. So you have one big block of things and then a lot of action steps. If you put yourself as responsible for all of the action steps, sometimes things will not happen because you will put too much things on yourself. So it's always good to have different people responsible for things which are their area of expertise. To give you a very clear example for it, when we were doing EB Summit, even though conference management is in my JD, the part of the budget was Thomas's work. And he was responsible for that because I know nothing about finances, he does, and he was responsible for that. So even though something overall is your responsibility, doesn't mean that every action step is your responsibility. Sometimes it can get really frustrating when you're depending on somebody and you're waiting for them to do stuff. But it also comes down to teamwork and about, again, it's all about everybody, again, accepting their responsibility and you learning how to work with different people. Everything clear so far? Can you write a plus or something or a minus? And please don't write Russian because I don't read Russian. Okay, awesome. Thanks. Or French, yes. Thank you, Rami. Okay, moving on. Here I will make the screen bigger now, so you can see a part of my functional plan. I will send you the template for this so you can make your own LC plans and so you can make your own functional plans. I already talked to the MCVPs and I will talk to them again. We will have a deadline after this. Usually it's going to probably be a month or so for you guys to create your own functional plans and an LC plan, and that we can have all the plans together in one place and everybody can see it. So basically in this plan, as you see, you have big blocks here in area of responsibility. You have big blocks of things. Then you have activities. For example, in planning, my activities are national, support LCs, aligning LCMC plan, national initiatives, and LC growth model. And then for KPIs, key performance indicators, once again, you have things in percentages or in numbers. It's very important that it's easy to track if you actually did it properly. And the only way so far that we came up with of doing that is if we put it in numbers or percentages, so it's easier for us to see how big of a percentage we managed to do something. As you see here, you see TM, which is really important. And there are a lot of activities to that, next to that. And then you have for every month, you have for the 4 weeks of every month, you have the first date. And then you basically, how you make a plan, you make big areas of responsibility. You write action steps or activities for each big area. You write what your KPIs are going to be for that. And then you write when are you going to be performing those activities. Making a plan like this might seem a bit scary because it's a really big thing. But it's very useful not only for tracking and not only for your successors to see what you've been doing, but also for yourself, because sometimes it will happen because you will have a lot of things to do. It will happen that you won't be able to see, you won't be able to do things, to do everything that you have planned, and you will forget exactly when you plan to do something. And that's when basically you look back into your plan and you see, oh, okay, the second week of July, I should have finished national planning. You check on yourself to see if you actually did it or you didn't do it. And then basically, if you didn't do it, you do it. Another thing this template is really good for, when you're making quarterly reports, the only thing that's different in the template, you still have area of responsibility, you still have activities, you still have KPIs, and then you have the outcome. Instead of the months in the template, you have the outcome, which is colored either red, green, or yellow. Red being it wasn't done, green being yay, it was awesome, and yellow being it was half done. And you have a part for comments. So it's going to be very simple for both us and you when we're sharing our quarter reports or monthly reports or any type of reports. When we have the actual plan, we can see what we needed to do in those 3 months, and then to see what we did and what we didn't do. Okay, is everything clear so far? Any questions? No questions, everything clear? Okay. Another thing, once we set the deadline for functional plans, all the plans, you're going to be sending them, of course, to your functional VP, and we will put them on the ODLCD workspace on Podio, so everybody can have access to them and we can basically share them. When it comes to the, when it comes to the MCVP plans, we have, sorry again, I don't know what's wrong with me. When it comes to the MCVP plans, we already showed them to some of you on the EB Summit. Sean has almost finished putting them all together. All the plans have been shared by the MCVP responsible people, but they're all again going to be on Podio, and I will send the link to the LCPs. so that everybody can see what their plans are, not only the VPs and the LCP, but also all the members, so that we all have access to everything. Again, it all comes back to transparency, which we're trying to do. If everything's clear, I'm going to continue. The final tips when it comes to planning. All ideas have merit. What does that basically mean? Sometimes when you're doing planning, especially, for example, if you're doing functional planning for ICX, you will have a lot of project ideas. Some of them will fit into your vision, some of them will not. Some of them will fit into your mission, some of them will not. But just because something doesn't seem like it's going to fit doesn't mean that you can't make it fit. So if you're doing, okay, so you set your vision, you set your mission, you did a SWOT analysis, so all of your team is on the same page of why you're doing stuff, how you're doing it, what you're doing. You establish your goals. Okay, this is what we want. This is how we're going to achieve it, basically. What you usually do then is you plan the activities. How you can do that? You can do it by, for example, brainstorming. When you're brainstorming, it's really important to remember that it's all about quantity and not about quality. It's one of the rare things which is more about quantity than quality. So if you have 100 ideas, chances are you're going to choose one or two, but you're not probably going to choose like one clear idea. You're going to combine more than one, and you're going to have something extraordinary. That's why you should try when you're planning, and basically if you're doing anything else in life, you should try to be very open-minded and not to be afraid to try new things, not to be afraid just because other LCs are not doing it, or just because other entities are not doing it. It doesn't mean that it's not going to work here. So that's, again, especially when it comes to ICX, when you have a project idea, feel free to share, so that it also comes down to all the other departments. If you remember, we talked on EB Summit about Ideas Hub. You have the link again on Podio. I will send it again in the output, where you can share all of your ideas for projects, for anything that you think we should do, because we're trying to get all the ideas and to actually make something worthwhile and to make something really amazing. So basically, all ideas have merit. Don't judge an idea before truly analyzing it. When you have a new idea, it's always good to see if you can do the next step and if you can fit it into your reality. Sometimes you will also have an amazing idea that just won't work. For example, I had an amazing idea of doing functional seminars for all LCs, for each function, to do like a special mini conference type of thing. That's a really good idea. But as you all know, Kazakhstan is a huge country. So that doesn't really work in Kazakhstan. Traveling takes a long time. It's pretty expensive. So making that work here is going to be much harder than making it work in a really small country such as Serbia or Tunisia, where you can travel everywhere within 2 or 3 hours. So it's amazing when you're having a good idea, when you're thinking big, and you should try to think big and think out of the box, but also be very realistic about what you can and what you can't do. Don't be pessimistic, don't expect the worst, but be realistic, be aware of your reality, your opportunities, your threats, your weaknesses, and your strengths. That is something that you will always have to look back on. Another thing you should do is you should make a detailed action plan. If we go back to the template here, we do have activities, but we don't have a detailed action plan here. If you look back in my functional plan, and again, I will share it again, you have for several of these things, for example, for knowledge management, you have for soft skill webinars a special sheet where there is a detailed plan of how we're going to do it, when we're going to do it, which thing we're doing when. When it comes to lead implementation, there is also a separate sheet. There's always going to be some activities within your plan where you're going to have to make a more detailed plan. Don't be scared to do so, and always do it, because if you don't, sometimes you will lose track of things. A lot of the times we have a lot of good ideas, we're doing planning, we're very motivated. Usually it's after a conference. We're very motivated, we want to do everything. And then kind of we have a lot of things to do, and we kind of lose that enthusiasm, we lose some of the ideas. If we write them down, if we put them on paper, if we plan everything, it will be much harder for us to lose track of the bad things, of the good things that we thought about doing. Another thing, have a responsible person for each action. It again comes back to my example with Thomas and me and the EB Summit. So it's not always the best idea to have yourself responsible for everything, the overall responsible. It's always good to have people who are more functional, who have more functional knowledge than you in that area, and have them be responsible for that. If you're doing an ICX project, you're the overall responsible is, I don't know, the VP ICX, but that doesn't mean that you're going to be tracking the budget really closely. The VP Finance is going to be tracking the budget. So put them as the VP responsible, even though it's your functional plan. Another thing to do is track. How do we track? I ask you, can you write me how we track? How do we track in ISEC in Kazakhstan? What do we use for tracking? Podio, yay, Adil. Yes, Amal, yes, Nazgul. Good job, guys. Podio, yes. Podio is an amazing thing. It's a lifesaver. Yeah, nailed it. Good job. Podio, one love. Podio is very useful. I know sometimes if you never had an encounter with a tool like that, it can be somewhat boring, and it can be like, why am I doing this? Why am I filling all of this? But it comes back to being really transparent so that everybody can see all of your information. Being very good to your successors, because they will be able to see 1 or 2 or 3 years after this. They will be able to see what we have been doing now, and they will be able to have all the information that they need in order to make their plans, basically. And it's going to be easier for you guys to track your members, for the MC to track you guys, for everybody to track everybody, for you guys to track the MC, if we all use Podio. There's going to be a tutorial on Podio. It's going to come out very soon, by the end of next week. We're going to make a tutorial on how to use Podio, including all of the workspaces, so that you can show it to your members, so that you can also take a look and you can see how basically to use all of the apps. It's going to be very clear. I know that most of you guys have had some experience with using Podio. You talked with your VP responsibles about it. They showed you how to do it. But this is just a way to make sure that everybody has the right knowledge. Again, by Friday, we're going to have a tutorial on Podio, and it's going to be amazing. Another thing we need to do is we need to actually implement the plan. So it's all good when we say, okay, this is what we're going to do. It's going to be amazing. We have all of these great ideas. We have our mission. We have our vision. We have our goals. We have our detailed action plan, our overall plan, and then we just kind of stop. A lot of the time that happens in ISEC. We kind of stop after making the plan. And of course, that's not something that we should do. So never forget about implementation, guys. Track yourself, not only everybody else. So check your functional plan daily. I check mine daily. Check yours weekly, monthly, whatever works for you. Find something that works for you. Check in on yourself, check in on your progress, see what you should be doing right now, and actually do it. If you're saying that you're going to do something, Be responsible for your words and actually do it. Live one of my favorite values and Diara's favorite values. It's demonstrating integrity. So demonstrate integrity by being truthful to what you say you will do. And what you say is not only what you say in words, but also what you say in writing, in the plans. So yay, demonstrating integrity, we're living ISIC values. Once the term is over and once every quarter is over, as you know, we have quarterly reports and an annual report when we're actually checking to see how much of our plan worked and how much of it was implemented. Sometimes we make a really good analysis, we have vision, mission, we have a detailed action plan, we have everything, but something happens, an external factor, something that we didn't manage to actually foresee happening. And then we have a situation where some of the things are just not done. Or we have members who resign, and then again we have situations where some of the things are just not done. If we do quarterly reports, if we do, for example, after 3 months, so at the end of at the end of September, I will do my first quarterly report. I will see if I managed to do everything I planned to do. And then if I didn't manage to do some things, I will sit down and change my plan so that I can make it more achievable for the next quarter. Basically, if you see that you're having difficulties achieving something that you plan to do, you need to sit down and analyze the situation, analyze the problematic of why this thing that should be happening is not happening, and how you can change your situation so that it starts happening. So basically, again, another very simple example. I had, as you know, last week and the week before that, the webinars didn't happen. The week before that, only Meruyert from Astana, Meruyert One Love, came to the webinar. And then it didn't happen because there was no point of doing it for one person. Last week, we had just 3 people coming to the webinar. I sat down. The webinars were supposed to be happening every week. They weren't happening. So I sat down, I analyzed the problem. I was like, okay, people are probably not hearing about it. Maybe they're not really understanding what's happening, why they're happening, things like that. And I came up with a solution, which was talk to the EPs, talk to the LCPs, and try to get promotion better so that we can have more members, try to explain it better. And now we have 22 people here. So yay, clap for you guys. So sometimes it's not good to wait until the end of the report, until the quarter has finished, in order to analyze the problems you have had. If you see that you're having a problem in some part of your plan, stop and analyze it right away and change it accordingly so that you can actually fulfill maybe not 100% of what you planned, but at least 80% of what you planned, or 70%. It's never too late to revise it and to make it fit into your reality if you didn't do it in the second step, basically. Another thing why the reports are really good and why the plans are really good is basically when you have your successors and when you have the people who are going to be working on that position after you, or like 5 years after you, they're going to be able to look at not only your plans, but also your reports. So they're going to be able to see what was working in 2015 and 2016 and what wasn't working. And maybe they can analyze it, they can make statistics out of it, and it can be really amazing, and we can make the entity much, much better. So that's when it comes to functional planning, and when it comes to LC planning, that's more or less it. Any questions or anything? Was everything clear? Was everything okay? Yeah. Okay, yay. Does anybody have a question? Any questions? Thank you, Leo, for writing something in Russian I don't understand. Okay, I think Arthur has a question. Okay, Darhan, what wasn't clear? Yeah, Topisan, I will send all the outputs, so the whole recording of the webinar, the presentation, the session outline, as well as the template for planning and my functional plan. All of that will be like in a zip file in the TM workspace, where all the LCPs and the VPTMs and TM responsible people have access. So everybody can download it. You can just ask your LCPs or TM responsible people to send it to you. So basically ask Nazim, she will send you the thing. Everything. Aha, he meant no questions. Okay. Awesome. Now, just another quick thing that I want to cover with you. Yeah, templates are the most interesting. I will send you the templates, don't worry about it. I will also send you templates for timelines, so it's easier for you to make a timeline. So just to make everything really, really simple and really easy. Another thing I wanted to really briefly discuss with you guys is setting our own personal goals and our own personal planning. So everything is very similar, but somewhat different from ISIC planning. When we're talking about ISIC planning and strategizing, we're talking about an organization as a whole. We have to look at a lot of different things. When we're talking about ourselves and our own personal vision and our personal mission, things get a little more complicated. It's really funny that it's easier to combine 10 different functions into one functional plan than to set your own personal goals. So some of you guys, most of you guys, were not at the first webinar, which was a self-awareness webinar. Back then, we talked about how we can get to know each other better, get to know ourselves better, how to be aware of our strengths, our weaknesses, our opportunities. Now, I just want to briefly tell you what you can do to make planning easier for yourself when it comes to your personal planning. All of you guys are studying something. All of you guys have positions in ISIC. The first thing you should do is think about why you decided to join ISIC and what you basically want to get from the organization. That's the first thing when it comes to the connection between ISIC and your personal life. The second thing you should ask yourself is, why are you doing the major that you're doing? So why did you decide to go to that university and not some other university? Why did you decide to study in that city and not in another city? So before we can actually set plans, we need to understand our own reasoning for things. So first you understand why you did things that you did, and then you can understand where you're going, which direction that you're basically going in. The third thing you should do is sit down and do your own SWOT analysis. So see what are your strengths, what are your weaknesses, how you can change your weaknesses into strengths, how you can avoid your threats, what are your opportunities, how you can make your opportunities work for you, basically. And sit down and think about where you want to be in 1 year. What are you going to do in 1 year? Personally, in 1 year, I'm probably going to be home, finishing school. Then, once you figure out where you're going to be in 1 year, you think about where you're going to be in 2 years. You come up with a solution. Basically, in 2 years, I'm probably going to be in China working. Why? Because I think it's going to be a good opportunity for me. Then you sit down and you make a small jump in time and think about, where am I going to be in 5 years? In 5 years, I'm probably going to be in one of the Scandinavian countries because I really want to study there. Like do my master's there, stay to live there, things like that. Then you sit down and you think about where you want to be in 10 years. I think you get the picture. Basically, in order to make your own personal plan, you do your own personal goals, which is much more complicated than doing ICE goals. ICE goals are pretty straightforward and simple because most of the things that we want to achieve are already aligned with the ISIC mission and the ISIC vision. So everything that we're kind of doing and everything that we're planning is basically we're adjusting that mission and vision into our entity reality, into our LC reality. When it comes to your personal planning, you need to align your goals with your vision and your mission. But that discovery of your vision and your mission is the tricky part, because a lot of the times we're doing things without really knowing how we're doing them. So my advice for everybody who wasn't at the self-awareness webinar is to take a look and try to see how to get to know themselves better and how to actually be aware of why we're doing things. Once you set your own personal mission and vision, you set your goals. So in 5 years, I want to be in Finland, for example. And then I do my action steps in my activities. So how do I get there? What do I need to do in order to be in Finland in 5 years? We start from a very short-term goal. We start from 6 months or 1 year. And then we learn how to do it on a larger scale. Sometimes it can be complicated. A lot of the times when I first started personal planning, I wasn't really sure on where I wanted to be in the future. And a lot of people I know weren't really sure. It takes a lot of introspection and it takes a lot of reflection in order to really know yourself and know where you want to be in 5 or 10 or in 20 years. And then to do your plan and to actually live your life in accordance to that plan so that you can achieve your long-term goals. Okay, any questions, guys? No questions? Was everything clear? It's, again, more or less the same, just a bit more complicated. Okay. I think Topi-san has a question. Okay. Yes, the last webinar materials are in the TM workspace. Nazim knows where they are. There is a link to the recording of the webinar where the first 5 minutes are missing. That was my mistake. Then we have also the presentation from there, the session outline. So you have all the materials and also some links. In the session outline, there are some links which are very useful, where you can read more about the SWOT analysis and about the spider diagram, which we talked about, which is also another tool to get to know yourself better, basically. Any other questions? No problem, anytime. If you don't have any questions and if everything is clear, that is everything for this webinar. On Thursday, Nagin is back. Yes, big news, Nagin is back. She came back today. Yay! Be happy, people, be happy. Yay! Happiness. Unfortunately, she's really tired, so she wasn't able to join us now. But from now on, in the next few webinars will be done by her, since I will be going to IC on Friday to India, because during the EB Summit, there was one webinar, the second one that was supposed to happen on self-motivation, and not a lot of people showed up, so it didn't happen. Nagina will do this webinar on Thursday, so this Thursday, which is the 20th, at 6 p.m. I will send out a link today to LCPs and TMs, and they can send it to everybody else. So on Thursday at 6, there will be a webinar on self-motivation and how to motivate others as well. So it's going to be a combination. And then on Sunday at 6, again, there will be a webinar again by Nagina talking about prioritizing and critical thinking, how to actually prioritize all our activities and how to deal with in critical situations, how to learn how to think analytically, basically. Okay. Any questions? Anything for the end? Anybody want to talk? No? You're welcome. Yay. Thank you guys for coming. I am very well, thank you. I'm very happy to see a lot of you here. I hope it was useful for you, and I hope you managed to get some useful information and knowledge that you will use in the future. Um, do you have any feedbacks? Do you think that the webinars should change in any way? Are you okay with this type of presentations, or any feedbacks for me, basically? Yes, you're okay. Isaac in Kazakhstan, yay. Awesome. You're very welcome. It does start with us. Okay. Change the slides in which way, Samal? Camila, keep living me. I love you. I don't live you. Make them more pretty. Okay, we will try to make them more pretty. That's a good suggestion. Make slides more pretty. Thank you, Leo. Very useful. Okay. Yeah. Concentrate. Yes, you spelled it right. Okay, we will, for the next presentation, the PPT will be a bit different. Hopefully, it will be more pleasing to the eye, and you'll have no more trouble concentrating. Okay, guys, that's everything for today. Thank you again for coming. Hopefully, you learned stuff. I will put everything on Podio now. And Darhan, can you write it in English, or can somebody translate? Or I don't know. I don't understand foreign languages. Don't do that to me. Okay, guys, that's everything then. I'll talk to you soon, and have a good week. Bye.
Does it work?